Hey there, welcome to Coffee Break Plans. Today I'm going to set up my reading journal for 2026. I use an Archer and Olive 8x8 dot grid notebook for this. It already has 2 years of book journaling in it, including this year, but there is enough room for one more year for 2026. My first year, which was 2024, last year, I used to do a series of spreads like book bingo, genre tracking, read the rainbow, plus a book bracket and book matrix. This year I ditched all of that and kept my annual goals just to some basic ones, some monthly themes, and also my book bracket and my book matrix. So a book bracket and book matrix are really just two different methods for determining whichever one is my favourite book of the year. I probably only need one method, but I enjoy doing them both, so I kept both. I also keep a list of every single book and its author that I read during the year. I also do a really simple monthly spread which has a list of my to be read, and then I have some book covers on the other side and a very brief review. So at the beginning of the year I used this red washi tape to set up all my annual and monthly themes and my book bracket and book matrix. And I also decided to use the same ones for my November and December spreads this year, and that way it kind of bookmarked the beginning and the end of the year so I could see easily where it began and ended. And it's a little unfortunate because I now want to use those same tapes for the beginning of 2026, but that's okay. On to the setup, I'm going to be using these washi tapes that came in a set a couple of years ago. They're from the washi tape shop. I don't know what they're called and I don't think they're available anymore anyway. First of all, I'm going to make my waterfall tabs, which I'll put in the annual list and the book bracket and book matrix. I've decided to start the year with the list of all books read. I don't really have many annual goals this time around, and if I decide I want monthly themes, I can include them on the monthly page instead of having a whole spread set up ahead of time. Now, if you are doing waterfall tabs or any kind of a setup, it's a good idea to have a plan. And as you can see, I've penciled in, that's my book bracket and my book matrix that I have penciled in, but I've also got lines down the side that show where I'm going to put tape and where I'm going to cut the page. The easiest way to do waterfall tabs is to start on the last page and work your way back. So this is where your pre-planning comes into play here. Now I know that I need 3 pages for my annual list and a 4th for my book bracket and book matrix. So I've gone to the last page and I'm putting down a strip of washi tape in the colour that I've chosen, which is the darkest one. I'm lay the tape down and I'm going to leave the tape overlapping over the top and the bottom, and then I turn to the next page and lay down another strip of tape, and I've overlapped it slightly with that first piece underneath, and then I put a cross on the page where I'm going to cut. Then I do the next page and then the next page back until all of the 4 pages that I need tape on have tape, and I've left that tape overlapping over the top. I sometimes go through and put the tape on the left-hand page as well, and then I cut the pages and tidy up all the tape, but this time I didn't, and I somehow lost all the footage of me actually cutting the pages and cutting the tape. So there you go, that's what it looks like at the end, and I'm just going through now and putting matching washi tape on the left-hand side of the page, and this gives the whole spread a nice tidy edge. As you'll see, I use the most impractically sized scissors to do all of this. I still haven't managed to get around to buying myself craft scissors one day maybe. I also have a corner rounder, believe it or not, that sits in my drawer, but I don't particularly like it. It doesn't do a very nice cut, so I tend to just snip around it with my scissors and just call it good. And in fact, I think in this case I've just left the pages square. I know some people don't like their pages being square, they like to have rounded edges, but for me it doesn't matter so much, so I just leave them be. I'm now going to go ahead and set up my book bracket. I really liked that look of the tape that I used last year, where the tape matched the tape that I chose for each month, but I thought it might look better with a black backing. So I grabbed my Archer and Olive notepad and decided to add rectangles to the back of the page. So I am just taking out a black page now. I'm going to cut the rectangles to size and I'm going to glue them in. I did glue them in and they went a little bit skew with, but I was okay with that, so I didn't worry about trying to tear them off and redo them or make any kind of corrections. I just left them the way they landed. So the way a book bracket works is by choosing the best book out of each month for the entire year, and then for every 2 months you choose the best book out of those 2 months, and you do that for the first 6 months of the year, and then you take the best 3 books from the first half of the year and you select the best one out of those 3. Then you do the same thing for the second half of the year and you end up with your favourite book for the first half of the year and your favourite book for the second half of the year, and you select between those two, and that is your favourite book for the entire year. It's not the best method of ranking all your favourite books, say from 1 to 10, because sometimes you may have a month where you read several good books, and you might have a month where you read some dud books, and the best book out of that month isn't necessarily going to be anything that great, but because you haven't read anything better, that one will win. But what you'll find is that your favourite book tends to rise to the top of the book bracket anyway. I'm now setting out my spreads for January and February 2026. I've got a little bit of a sketch there, and I'm going to use some black tape for the outer size of the spreads this year, and I decided I will use the monthly themed coloured tape on the inside page where I write my to be read. And I haven't done a complete setup for this. All I've done is put the black tape in on the outside and got that all tidied up. The reason for that is that I'm not sure whether I want to add more information into each monthly page or whether I want to leave it the way I did it last year. And of course, once I've cut the page, I can't uncut it and change my mind. So I decided to leave the pages intact, and I will decide exactly what I'm going to do with this closer to the date. So my annual spreads are now all done, and I'm mostly set up for January, February. And then what I decided is that I didn't want to keep on with my awful attempts at calligraphy for the beginning of the month. So I decided to print out the months of the year on paper, and then I glued all of these months to all of the scraps and bits of paper that I found in with my notepad. I have a tendency to keep all those little partially used pieces of paper. So what I decided to do was use them all up by just gluing all of the months onto them and then cutting them up, and then I had some ready-made headers for next year. I then went ahead and glued in the headings for January and February, so they're ready to go when I'm ready to go. And I went back in later, and this was off camera, and I made a heading for All Books Read 2026, and I stuck that in at the top of my overall book list for next year. That's all I have for today. It's nice and short and sweet this week. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next time.